Welcome back to CasualBiasRugby. The Rugby Championship done and dusted. South Africa victors. And I thought I'd make a video. I didn't make a video on a weekend review. I was a bit tired. I thought, listen, no filming on Sunday. Let's just do a little sabbatical of a one-day sabbatical, and then we'll jump right into it again on Monday. And I thought I'd just do it justice to talk about the Rugby Championship as a whole. Talk about some takeaways of literally each and every one of the teams. As you know, I go off. I'm completely unscripted. Like there's no stats or anything in front of me. It's just purely what I've seen, what I've observed, and I just blab it out. You know, that's why I love it when you guys are in the comments. Tell me what takeaways you have for every single team. We'll break down every single team and just talk about it. And the reason that I thought we'll do a video like this is because I truly do believe that this has been the best rugby championship that we've had in years. And you could say that's because I'm biased, that South Africa won or whatever, but I just think overall the competitiveness of it was absolutely scintillating. So please do remember to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I do appreciate each and every one of you guys. Go to my socials here at the top. Go and follow me on there. I'm trying to grow that as well. But anyway, let's just jump right into it. Starting off obviously with the team that won it. You know, I'm talking about my team, South Africa, the Springboks. And, you know, for once we actually went into a rugby championship where we were the favourites. And there was a big talking point where it's like, can South Africa finally embrace being the favourites? You know, because we've been the favourites before and we've bottled it. You know, we like a little bit of controversy hanging around us. And you can even talk about that after literally Saturday's performance. You know, there was people doubting us. The victory of Argentina made people doubt us. You had the doubt around Manie Libbok, and you just saw how the boys played. They love it when there's a bit of controversy around them, but there wasn't this controversy around us the whole time, and finally we embraced that. You know, we broke some records. We beat New Zealand now twice in a row in the Rugby Championship. We won the Freedom Cup. We beat New Zealand overall 4 times in a row now. We beat the Wallabies in Brisbane. Obviously, caveat behind it that the Wallabies aren't really where they used to be in the past. We lost against Argentina, but a massive bounce back victory. And for us, and I mentioned this on Saturday in my post-match review, I wouldn't say this is bigger than the Rugby World Cup win, by no stretch of the imagination, but the importance of it is there for me. Like the fact that we've won World Cups before, we've won 4 of them, arguably kind of on the same road as we've won as much rugby championships. You know, that just tells you the dominance that the All Blacks have had. But the importance of it to go ahead and win the Rugby World Cup and people talking about us potentially being the best team in the world to ever like grace this earth. I don't agree with that. I'm not on that wavelength. I think we will never see the dominance that we had from New Zealand from 2011 to 2015, you know, or even 2009 if you want to go as far back as that. But for us to actually push towards that, because obviously you want to strive to be the best team to ever play the game, you have to win what's in front of you. And I'm kind of in this headspace where I'm like tired of us being seen as just a World Cup team, and I want us to win the Rugby Championship. I put a massive importance on us to do this. And the boys went out and they did it, you know. We should have probably had a clean sweep. I'm not necessarily happy with the fact that we lost the game. But I mean, in the end, you're going to have blips. You're going to have some bumps in the road. And it's the way that you bounce back. And I think we did it absolutely brilliantly. We played great against the Wallabies. You have to remember, we've got a lot of injuries. We still got a lot of boys that are done after the World Cup. For instance, there's no Dion Fourie. There was no John Klein. There was no Dwayne Vermeulen. There was no Franco Morster. You know, the list goes on. No Damian Willemse. The list goes on and on and on of the people that were in the World Cup, literally in the World Cup final, that weren't available for us in this Rugby Championship. And we embraced it, and we didn't shy away from the way that we wanted to play necessarily. And we put out some good performances, and we got some massive victories, you know. This is a new team, new squad. We've got some new coaches, new system that we want to play. Obviously, it is an aging squad, not necessarily a new squad, but there's a couple of youngsters that came through. And the real standout thing for me is while we really focused on our basics in terms of we're not going to shy away from our physicality and we play the spine of the team still stayed the same. There was a lot of young guys coming through, you know. There was still the Sasha coming through. Apli Lefasi was absolutely brilliant. We tried combinations. We tried Lukhanyo Am on inside centre. We played Andre Pollard on inside centre. You got the young guys coming through. I think we played about, what, like 35 boys in this whole rugby championship, which is brilliant. You know, Gerard Steenekamp, Johan Grobler, Jan-Hendrik Wessels. Jan-Hendrik Wessels played as a prop and as a hooker. You saw Pieter Stef du Toit going back into that lock position when we had all the injuries. So just overall, you know, so happy for this team. We've worked hard to get into this position and to not shy away from kind of like asserting dominance and getting good victories, you know. We got some convincing victories and we got the close games as well. I'm just so happy to be a South African at the moment. And the first step for us to be this team that we are aspiring to be is to win the rugby championship, win the one that is right in front of you. And we've done that. Now next year has to be the same thing. We have to go to the end of the year and we have to say, listen, okay, we're not going to revert back to our kicking tactics in the Northern Hemisphere. Let's take the battle to them. You know, show what we are worth. And I truly believe that is what we went out and we did in this rugby championship. And overall, that is the takeaway. The fact that we've increased our depth. And then you look at the Currie Cup as well. I mean, we had conversations about boys coming through from the Currie Cup, and yet you have the young boys here as well. I mean, South Africa is in such a healthy position in terms of our rugby at the moment. So very happy with that. Very happy with the way that South Africa conducted themselves during this rugby championship. So overall, extremely happy. Let me know what the takeaways are for you. My main takeaway, embracing the favourites and asserting dominance while still trying out new positions, new roles under the new system. And I think we're just going to get better and better and better over time. And by the end of the year, we might see a Inku van Wyk there. We might see, Cameron Hanekom there. We might see a Jorenzo Julies there. And obviously Damian Willemse will be back then. We saw the controversy over Manie Libbok. Saturday, he had a very good game, you know. Jaden Hendrickson, myself, I judged him. You know, I said I don't believe he should be there as the in that 9 jersey. Yet he had a very good game on Saturday. Every single game, to be fair, that Jaden Hendrickson came on, he was pretty good, you know. So it just gives you more options. Because now, obviously, we know Sasha will probably be the future 10 of South Africa, but he's injured until the end of the year. He might be back for the end of the year tour, but if he's injured even longer than that, you know you can't trust Manie. If you take away the kicking duties, you give it to Jaden Hendrickson or Faf de Klerk that might be back, or Cheslin Colby. Manie Libbok has a lot to offer you on the field. So, obviously, extremely happy for the South African team. Let's move on to the All Blacks. The takeaways for me is that the All Blacks weren't as bad as everyone expected. This is like, with not even just the All Blacks, everyone in this rugby championship, the games were close. The fact that South Africa beat everyone except for Argentina, but everyone else beat Argentina as well, even though Argentina beat everyone else as well. You look at the way that the All Blacks matched up against the Wallabies, people talking about the Wallabies being one of the worst teams ever. They matched up really well against the All Blacks, you know, and I'll speak about the Wallabies in a second. But the one thing that kind of stands out for me with the All Blacks, and I mentioned it before, is that I just didn't feel there's enough rotation in the team. I just mentioned South Africa played about 30 to 40 players throughout this rugby championship, where I didn't feel necessarily the All Blacks did that at all. Maybe in the forwards pack a bit. I would have liked to have seen a bit more rotation. We only in the final game saw Beauden Barrett finally get that 10 jersey, for example, or Anton Leonard-Brown taking that 12 jersey. But would we have seen that if Jordie Barrett didn't get injured? Probably not. But there was a couple of guys that were seen probably as fringe players, and this is a standout for me. Probably seen as fringe players or not even really part of the squad that have just put their hand up and absolutely shone through. You look at the likes of a Tupu Vai, who I thought was absolutely brilliant. You look at, obviously, Wallace Satiti. I mean, the youngster, how old is he? 20, 21? Maybe 22, I'm not even sure. Brilliant. Cortez Ratama. I mean, we all spoke about Cam Roygard and what a massive loss he is. Obviously, he is still a massive loss. But Cortez Ratama fit that 9 jersey like a glove. You had TJ Perenara coming back. Yeah, he didn't necessarily stand out, but I don't think TJ Perenara was by any means bad. You got D-Mac some proper minutes in that 10 jersey. You've rotated with Will Jordan on the wing. You've rotated with him at fullback. So there was a lot of the same players played necessarily, but you had a couple of guys really coming through and a couple of other guys that really got some game time, which they needed in the roles, and you also experimented at the same time. I think as an All Blacks fan, you would still be happy. I know you placed 3rd, which is obviously not great in terms of the standards that you set. But I mean, you've lost so many boys from the Rugby World Cup. We know the importance of them. I mean, just to name two players that I feel like you really miss is obviously Sam Whitelock or Brodie Retallick, and then Richie Mo'unga, you know. But controversial opinion, I still believe we'll see Richie Mo'unga coming back, you know. But overall, I wouldn't say I was too impressed with the All Blacks, but I would definitely not feel like it's all doom and gloom like I've seen on social media and stuff. I would still have liked to have seen Rico Ioane back on the wing, seen Billy Proctor. I don't know what Billy Proctor has to do to get back into this team. But finally, you know, even the Wellington curse has been broken. Finally broken against the Wallabies. You know, obviously retaining the Bledisloe, which is massive. Unfortunately, lost the Freedom Cup. But overall, I still believe that the All Blacks can keep their head high for a very, very competitive tournament. They had a slip up at the start of the tournament. They still pulled the Springboks close. You know, people were writing them off. They pulled them off with what? 3 points and then 7 points or something like that. I can't even remember. So the All Blacks never really looked bad in games. Like they still pull their side, unless you talk about the first game against Argentina. But then again, you have to give credit to Argentina. So yeah, obviously the standouts for me when it comes to the All Blacks is just the players that have got solid game time in the position that Razor probably sees them in, of course, and then young talent coming through, Ratama and Cortez. Brilliant. Anyway, let's move on to the Wallabies. And I've called it from the start. It's not as bad as people say it is. And obviously they lost the record at Brisbane. They got a record defeat against Argentina. But you look at some of those guys that really put up their hands. I think the Wallabies were great. In terms of what the expectations were, I keep on asking that to people. What was our expectations of the Wallabies going into the Rugby Championship? And from the start, I said, get a win over South Africa, get a win over Argentina, and then push towards the All Blacks. We kind of just know that they won't beat the All Blacks. Obviously, they didn't come close to South Africa. They got the victory over Argentina. But what I was so impressed with is the way that after every single game, we could say, okay, we actually see something here. We actually see what they're doing here. They didn't just get spanked, you know, even in that massive defeat against Argentina. You saw those first 25, 30 minutes. You saw what they can do on attack. You saw what they did against the Springboks in the first test, in that second half. I thought they were great. I thought they were kind of the better team in that second half of the first test. You had guys sticking up their hand, Rob Valentini, Fraser McWright coming back, absolutely brilliant. Tom Wright had probably one of his best seasons I've ever seen him play. He looked brilliant. If I had to do a combined Rugby Championship 15, I'd put Tom Wright at 15. He was absolutely brilliant. Angus Bell, once again, standout player. You got James Slipper. You know, the list just continues of positivity that the Australian team can take forward. And I mean, if you give Joe Schmidt the reins for a few years and tell him, listen, you just keep pushing, you saw the improvement that they've made literally from this Rugby Championship, from the World Cup until this Rugby Championship. Beat Wales after Wales spanked them in the Rugby World Cup. It's the same Welsh team. It's a different Australian team, yet they beat them. They still beat Georgia. They put up their hand and they beat Argentina in Argentina. They pulled the All Blacks close. Where did they play? Was it in Sydney that they played? I'm not even sure. And put up a solid fight, especially in that first half against the All Blacks. And I don't think they were that bad against South Africa. You look at the first half of the second game, the second half of the first game. Like, it's not that bad. Give Joe Schmidt 2 years, get him to know the players get to know the system. You can see the talent that they have. Len Ikitau, once again, another standout player. Tate McDermott, really brilliant. Then you look at, Carlo Tizzano, in my opinion. Very good. Dylan Petch on the wing. Very good. So there's a lot of talent there. There's a lot of talent in Australian rugby, and they just need time under this new system. So absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And what I loved is they never shied away from their attacking style. Joe Schmidt imagine the style that he wants this team to play. And if you look at the players, they have to play this style. And they really went at it every single game. They never had a dying attitude. They never looked like, okay, we're not going to win. We're just gonna fall out flat here. Every time they pitched up, they played some beautiful running rugby, and every single game of Australia was a good game to watch, in my opinion. In my opinion, at least. So yeah, that's my takeaways for Australia, is literally never shied away from what they want to do, and I still believe they're going to have a good future. I've mentioned this before, when they previously had their history-making defeat. A couple of years later, they won the World Cup. You want to give them a coach that can actually turn a team around from a history-making defeat, you give them Joe Schmidt. That's exactly what they have. And the thing is, they've got youngsters coming through. This isn't all gits sitting out there on 35 years of age. These are young boys, or in their prime, just shy of their prime. They will be a good team. They will be a good team again. I promise you this. Anyway, let's move on to Los Pumas. And obviously, history making. First time ever that they've beaten all three teams in this rugby championship. And the same as Australia. I thought like they looked so beautiful when they actually got that backline moving. You look at the young guy coming through, allblacks. You look at Mateo Carreras. I think Marcus Kremer was great. Pablo Matera was great. You know, so many brilliant players. John Malia at fullback. Brilliant. Not Lucio Cinti. Lucio Cinti was okay, but Chocobares, brilliant on inside Cinti, you know. Standout players. And the main takeaway that I take from this Argentinian team, not only the fact that Contepomi is a legend and he walks out of press conferences, whether you like it or not, I like a bit of stirring. I like a bit of drama, you know. But we've always spoke about their inconsistencies, and obviously they were very inconsistent in this rugby championship. That hasn't changed, right? Like, they beat the Springboks, loses by about 41 points, beats the All Blacks, loses to the Wallabies, and then all of a sudden put a record score on them. But the main thing that I take away from Argentina in this one is that when they looked good, they nearly looked unstoppably good. When they got that ball in hand and they got that backline flowing, they probably looked like the best team in the world with the way that that backline was running. And obviously they've got a new coach in Contepomi, and I would love to see I'm very excited to see what they cook up for the end of the year and going forward. If we can have a rugby championship like this every single year, this is must-see TV. You don't know who really to predict who to win. And if Argentina can take all their positives that they had in their winning performances, even the positives in their losing performances, they could be a massive team. You look at the youngsters coming through in the under-18, under-20 World Cups, you know. They are a solid nation, solid rugby nation. And if they just keep on cooking and find some consistency and hammer down on that consistency, they are a tough team to beat. They are a very, very tough team to beat. But anyway, overall, I am so happy with this rugby championship. As I've mentioned, this was one of the best ones, not one of the best ones, the best one we've had in years. And I can't say enough good things about it. That's why I decided to make this video instead of making a rugby championships team of the tournament. If you do want to see that, do tell me in the comments. I'll do a video on that. But overall, I'm just so happy. I'm a happy Southern Hemisphere guy. We felt like we were falling behind the Six Nations a bit, but this tournament, this championship has just put it right up there again. Thank you. Please do remember to like and subscribe. I do appreciate you guys, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.